cutter Clement, Rudy Page, once again with our top technicians, Sophia, Gillian, Angela, and guests, and we're happy for you to join us at any time. Brother Derek.
Yes, sir.
What's happening in the Afro realm at the moment now? Where are we?
I mean, lots is and I love the term. We call ourselves guardians of the Afro realm because that's exactly what it is. The Afro realm is nothing. It's huge. It's phenomenal. It goes back to antiquity, and we have lived a glorious time in our culture, and it's imperative that we share that time, if you like, bring it back, bring it alive, if you like. Between the 70s and the 80s, Afrohair was at its peak, its zenith. Yeah. It was at its most, well, for the want of a better word, it was a renaissance. 1970 right up to 1991, as far as I'm concerned, that was perhaps the best era for our hair, and it's something that we are proud of. We're going to keep it alive. And so this evening, let's talk Guardians of the Afro Realm. We'll discover all aspects of that era, that time, that renaissance.
Great. Sophia, good to see you.
Good seeing you. So I'm on the same page as you, really. We're looking at really getting in touch with our natural beauty, with our natural selves, falling in love with our hair, having that passion to do what's right for our inside of our body and outside our body, on top of our head as well. So my area is looking at that holistic picture, so physical, the intellectual, emotional, the social, and even the spiritual aspect of life. So I love that. So when it comes to natural hair or anything with nature, I'm there.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Gillian.
Hi, well, that's a lot, Sophia. My corner would probably be more focusing on young people, to introduce them to how to love their hair, because I think that's where everything starts. The damage is done when you're older and you've tried so many things and tested. But when you deal with young, and I'm talking about little people, little girls, just to learn to love their own natural texture and love themselves would be a point for me, really.
Excellent. Angela?
Hi there, Rudy. Good evening, everyone. I am about the educational aspect of hair and the entire holistic approach, which is the mind, the body, and the spirit. So it's the entirety that I am coming with on that handle. Also just educating folks on the basic things. You'd be surprised as to how many people, although we are of Afro-Caribbean heritage, do not know anything about the natural hair. Yeah. For some reason, for many, caring about our natural hair, exiting the process of chemicals is very difficult for people to understand. And so I'll be bringing the educational aspect of that, tips, and also just about the entire holistic approach of our hair and science as well. So definitely all in.
Thanks for that. So Derek, if we start off then maybe with the hair care and barbering skills clubs and that whole delivery of learning and education, what are your thoughts for 2021, given that that's top of our agenda now, I guess?
Let me just say, I love the collective dialogue and everyone on the same page. And the idea that people are beginning to love their hair, love who they are. That anti-self concept that's been raging lately is quite sad. But having said that, I think in recent years, I think people are beginning to discover who they really are. And that said, let me say that as a young man back in the 70s, and this ties in with our philosophy, somewhere to go, something to do, and someone to teach us. And I was blessed to have had somewhere to go, to a Black man and this family to show me what it is I wanted to do in life. And my entire career was based entirely on the fact that I wanted to discover myself. I had choices. I could have gone to corporate world in England back in the day, in that kind of racist landscape. So I knew at a very early age, I had the presence of mind, therefore, to go towards my culture, to realize my cultural esteem, to raise my cultural esteem, if you like. And Splinters, which I'll never stop talking about, was that place where it was a glorious time, as I said earlier, in a renaissance. And I was taught at the highest level. And I could definitely attest to that, because I've been to lots of other salons, white salons, and the training I had at Splinters was actually in par. I taught at London School of Fashion. I taught at Hounslow Borough College, and the Splinters training was unique. It was unique on many levels, because Winston, the proprietor, was a Vidal Sassoon trained stylist. And so his concept of, if you like, manipulating Afro hair. And I think we should be proud of that, because as a people, we are always able to change the paradigm and meet the trajectories. It's interesting because here we were as a people with a certain hair type, a halo, if you like, and we have to celebrate ourselves because we were able to, and this is a unique thing with Black people, we always conform, if you like, or transform, if you like a chameleon. We adapted to that landscape. And here we are today, many decades later, and we've adapted back what I refer to now as claiming, if you like, collapsing the trust. What's trust in this concept? Trust means we trusted somebody else's philosophy or somebody else's ideal. And we've collapsed that trust and we've reclaimed our trust. And it's good to see the members on there today, like Jillian talking about getting the children trained up, Sophia talking about working on the inside to realize you're outside. And I'll also make my contribution regarding the inside and how it affects the health of our hair.
Yeah, you raised a good point there. So I'd be interested in our technicians now. Where do you start then in delivering the learning to young people now in the context of where we are? So the context of where we describe it as a COVID post-pandemic era. COVID post-pandemic era. That's where we are. So those of us who've been fortunate to transition our minds into that era, because we're not going back to wherever we were prior to the third week in March. That world is kind of gone, right? So having said all that, and the tools that we now have, so where do you start? 2021, that's next month. Even to say that sounds a bit frightening. 2021 is next month. So where do we start in educating this new generation of young people coming up? Gillian touched on it, that their hair is completely natural. And so those of us who feel that we do have a responsibility, going back to Derek's point of right of claim, where do we start in the delivering of that learning? So I'm going to put Sophia on the spot and let her go last on this, because I know Sophia will be very strong on that. So let me, Angela, and then Gillian, and then Sophia. And then I'm going to come to Bev, Bev will come from a very much of the public's inquiry of the professionals, because we've all been on platforms where the public have always got something to say about the professionals. So there's something about us also being able to bridge the gap between the informed and uninformed. So it'd be good to get from Bev's perspective, that of the public, because at the end of the day, it's our public and we have to be able to convince ourselves and work with ourselves in our socio-economic interest because the industry belongs to us. We have the brands, Sheer Moist 9, K77, Sophia's brand. So we have the brands to meet the needs of our communities, but
Angela's brand.
Cultural gap. So yeah, so okay then. So where do we start then?
I think we start with the basic education of our hair. And a lot of that would take place online, having possibly short Zoom calls on educating, starting off with just educating about the hair, the different textures of hair, what our hair is made up of, the science of our hair, how versatile our hair is. And with that also, with regards to the number of different products that can be used tackling the different types of hair textures, and really educating, just educating, and it's basics, starting from basic, you know, and bringing all of that together will also aid to enhance.
Okay.
So beginners, those who do know, intermediate, and so forth. I think that's a fantastic way to move forward. It's just starting very clearly, you know, from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's involving the science of our hair, our textures, hair types, and so forth.
Okay, good to see. Is that Verona Green showing us our hair? So you're doing your hair whilst we're live. Excellent. So,
Hi, Verona. Hi, Beverly.
so you can speak when you get the chance, no problem. So do you want to say hello first before we move to Gillian? Okay, seem to have frozen there. Okay, Gillian. So we're talking about where we start, the starting point in delivering this education.
Okay, so Angela made a very good point about going back to basics, because that's something that I think about. You also mentioned products. I think what I find when I work with people, it's you give somebody a product and they put it in, they expect magic. I think technique of how to handle the hair is an important thing. Teaching detangling and the way the hair moves, technique is of utmost importance. I mean, it's an added bit to all the education. Some people just need the technique. You can use any product or many products, and if the technique isn't right, sorry, you don't get a fabulous result. So I think technique would be a good thing. Angela pointed on being back to basics, the simplest things. People just need a simple start. You don't crowd their minds with too much information. Information is good, but simple things that you know would click that point for everyone, and then you take it from there.
Yeah. Okay, got somebody doing their training in the background.
My son football, so sorry.
No, it's live. It's no problem.
He's gone.
Yeah. Sophia.
Wonderful. So I thought I had to look a bit of notes because you make me go last. So I didn't want to miss anything else. But yes, definitely. The aspect of health, that's a major area. So I always think to myself, inside and out. So we're in a toxic environment, psychologically toxic, but also in the foods that we're eating, the products that we're using. These are causing toxic to us. So is it about exploring those aspects? There's stress in our lives, and a lot of stress could be that emotional stress in our environment, but also the stress we're putting on our hair when we're putting extensions in and weave in or relaxing. So we look at all the different stresses which is causing issues with our hair going through that way as well. Basic things like hydration and diet is just so important that we keep ourselves hydrated. Now, our body makes sacrifices, and our body is designed to thrive. Do you know what I mean? It's designed to thrive, but it will make sacrifices to survive. So if you're not taking care of yourself inside, your body's going to show on your skin, on your hair. You'll find that if your body's very acid, your hair will go grey earlier, your hair will get brittle and dry and break off, our skin will get ashy. We know all the signs and symptoms, but it's not about getting products to mask those signs and symptoms. It's about dealing with the real issue. So I so much agree with Angela and Gillian. It's about getting back to basics. It's about starting from scratch. what are we eating? What are we drinking? What are we around? What are we putting in our skin and our hair? So let's go there. So having the education, learning the techniques, like what was said already, absolutely brilliant. Also, it's about knowing ourselves and accepting ourselves. So it's also about our attitude when we see beautiful kinks and curls. So we're going to have to look at all those kind of things, be the example. And you know, if our children are seeing people with natural hair and loving and enjoying our natural hair and exploring our natural hair, that's going to be an example to them. We can't turn around and say, you know, I'm going to cover all my hair, but I want you to be natural. It's good. Your children are going to follow your example, or your physical example, what your action, and not so much your words. So it's really, really important to get that part. And so being understanding that we are unique. So you're right, some products are going to be amazing for my hair, it might be totally different for somebody else. And so that's what I like about Sheer Moisture, because you've got a whole range, so you can cater for so many different people. And of course, I love products which are as close to nature as possible. And I know that my range is like that. I know your range is like that as well, because I think that's really important. If you're going to put it on your skin and your hair, you should be able to put it in your mouth. You don't want to have any chemicals, because that increases your toxic load. And if your body is toxic, it's going to have an effect on your hair. So short term, it might look amazing, but long term, it's going to have a negative effect to your health. So I do see that big picture.
Excellent. Derek, before I get to Bev, I've got a question in terms of how do you transition from weaves back to natural? Is the question.
Right. So there are many examples. I mean, my first approach is chop the entire thing off, the big chop. But for some people, the big chop may be a bit too extreme, too harsh, and perhaps may need time to adjust. So there's braiding. The hair could be braided, simple cornrow left in a stylized form. There are those who prefer the protective hairdressing approach, wearing a weave or a wig to ensure that the hair gets time to grow back. My beef with the wig and the weave is that it does, in fact, more harm than good. It's a necessary evil. It's a great way to kid yourself that your hair going to take time to grow back. But in my opinion, if I were you, go to the hairdresser and have a lovely cut, a stylized cut like Angela. Angela was one of those people who was transitioning, and now she has a wonderful cut. It looks fantastic. That's the first approach. But in the meantime, feed your hair. Back to Sophia's point, it's all about the inside first. It's over there. It's about the inside first. You give your hair internally as much nutrient as possible to boost the hair's health and to therefore encourage regrowth.
Okay, and then there's another point in the chat room. I'm not ready to go grey yet, so can you give some advice around that?
Well, of course, there's always coloring.
Not me, of course, but you know.
I mean, we have so many options. There's coloring, of course.
Yeah.
If you don't want to use anything too toxic, too harsh, too much chemical, there's henna. There's also natural colors that you can use if you so desire. But most colors, semi-permanents, are quite safe if it's done by a professional.
Right. Okay. So Bev, from the consumer's perspective now, so you've heard what the professionals say. What are your questions or points to make to the technicals here, technical team? You need to unmute yourself.
As a child growing up, it was always natural stuff. Yeah, mostly the single Bible or the tuna, you know, or if they haven't got it, you use soap. Yeah, ordinary soap. And then after that, it would be greased with castor oil or whatever, coconut oil, which would be made by your grandma or somebody like that. Those sort of oils are, those sort of oils are found to be in the today Afro-Caribbean hair product, which is such as Derek has produced, etc., etc. For me, my experience that I've had in observing, I do object to the very young, even my own children, even though they had great, you know, they had sort of good quality hair. They were not allowed to put chemicals in their hair. Whenever they did decide to do that, they were 18 plus. Yeah, they weren't allowed to. And when they did do it and they came to me, I said, what have you done? And they goes, oh, Mom, you know, I didn't tell you because I know you would say something about it. I do try and encourage my kids that, which they do, do that. And I've got around me people that have something about weaves and braids. What I found with friends around me, that the weaves and the braid took away their hairline, it receded. And then they decided recently, a couple of my friends have chopped their locks off and they weave them, they're going natural. And that's when I realized that they're really gray underneath it. But, you know, I compliment them because it looks great.
Right, okay, thanks.
And I've got my, yeah.
Sorry,
that's the type of image, yeah. And for the younger people, yes, you know, they need to be encouraged to use natural products instead of all the weaving and the braiding and all that type of stuff, yes.
And like was said earlier on, it's about what young people see, isn't it?
That's right, educating them.
There's got an example set. There's an old African saying that some children will do as you say, some children will not do as you say, all children will do as you do.
Yeah, I've got my own granddaughters now. They've actually recently decided since lockdown, oh, I don't really need to go to the hairdresser. I can, you know, use these products in my hair and, you know, deal with it. Yeah. But the educating side of it is really important, that they learn to, first they've got to identify who they really are and use the stuff that is really suitable for them. Diet is important in minerals and especially natural herbal things. Not drinking fizzy drinks and all these things. They need to be taught these things. Yeah, educate them.
Yeah. Derek, somebody's asked about the nutrients. Can you say something yourself and Sophia? You know,
Beverly talked about sustainability, and that's our ethos. It's important to ensure that your product is sustainable. So our product range is essentially plant-based, intelligent nutrient, a phytonutrient base. It's important. Why? Because our ancestors told us centuries ago that we should use ingredients that's indigenous to us. The DNA understands that. So if I'm a man from the Caribbean or African man from the Caribbean, I wouldn't use something that's indigenous to perhaps somebody else from the Mediterranean or from the UK. I would use the plant base. And what are they? The hair growth ingredients, we know them to be the castor oil, the shea butters, the ylang ylang, the lemongrass, the moringa, the castor oil, the coconut oil. All those are intelligent nutrients because they communicate with the hair. There's a sink, and you have to bear in mind it works on the inside. Hair grows at a cellular level. It is from the inside we must focus to ensure. And there's another thing I must say before we go, Brother Roots. Inflammation causes a havoc to our hair. As a matter of fact, inflammation causes alopecia. And it's interesting, guys, before I go, I must demonstrate this to you. As a hairdresser at school, Angela would attest to that, and Gillian and perhaps Sophia, we had this thing called affleurage, petrissage, and tapotement. So it means, therefore, ladies, at all times, do that. Pick your hair up, pick your scalp up and massage it. And then do this. Constantly do this to allow the inflammation, to remove the inflammation in your head that can cause alopecia, and in particular, what we call CCCA, cicatricial alopecia. It's pandemic at the moment, what used to be called press and comb alopecia. So get back to the old-fashioned method of using plant-based sustainable products and getting back to the old system of massaging, constantly lifting. This is called the epicranial aponeurosis. You lift this up all the time and you tap, 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 and remove the inflammation from your head that would cause you problems, because inflammation triggers many, many different things. Perhaps Sophie might talk about this later on. Thyroid, lupus, and of course all the chronic conditions that will ultimately cause your hair to not grow.
Okay, Sophia, is something to...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll go back just a little bit. Lady who was talking about she's got a weave and about the transition and going through. I think that sometimes what happens is that we get so used to seeing ourselves a certain way.
Yeah.
So if you're always used to seeing yourself with long hair down, long straight hair down your back all the time, and you've just got used to see it, when you look in the mirror, you're used to seeing this straight hair all the time. So sometimes it can be easy to start that adaptation by getting extensions. If you're going to use extensions, you're going to wear a wig that look a bit more like your own hair, or it's got curls and kinks in it. So you get used to seeing yourself that way. I remember going on holiday one year, and I decided I was going to put a thickening band in my hair. And then I got this thickening band. The holiday was really, really good. And then when I came to take that extension part out, I was disappointed in my own hair, because I got so used to seeing my hair being really, really full. And I think what's happening is that we're getting so used to and adapting to seeing our hair brown or straight or whatever style, or the length of the style. And then when we take that out, we don't recognize ourselves. So it's about getting, again, about loving self. So I think that's really important that was talking through. I know that somebody talked about it's a little bit on what we're talking about health, is about alkaline in our bodies. If your body is acid, your body's going to give you those signs and symptoms, and your grey hair might be that signs and symptoms. Not saying that it can totally stop it, because part of your maturity and part of your wisdom is to mature, and it's a blessing that we can get mature, especially these days. We're realizing that to be an elder is actually a blessing, so we need to appreciate that. But also, if your body is toxic, it's going to give you those signs. So get those leafy greens in. Our immune system, which is what Derek was talking about, aspects of, we were noticing that autoimmune disorders are on the increase. Our immune system is being really taxed at the moment, be it the COVID, be it whatever illnesses are going around, be it the toxic environment. Our bodies are having to fight all the time. So you need to try and reduce your toxic load. So again, you're looking at what foods are you eating. If your toxic levels are high, then anything can tip over the edge. So all of a sudden you find that you're allergic to things that you were never allergic to before. And that's because your toxic is high. So if you're putting chemicals, laxers, all those kind of chemicals, your body is struggling and it's trying to show you those signs. And that signs could be the signs that it can show you, things like high blood pressure, lupus, arthritis, all these toxic signs in your body could be showing you that you're too far away from nature and you need to come back to nature, especially like what Beverly was saying. It's amazing. Yes, we used to do it in our kitchen. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the products start in the kitchen. It's about having the products that are there for us, made for us, with love, not love for making a profit and looking good short term but causing damage long term. It's about causing that good health and that positive vibe. So be careful about what products that you are using. So I think that's really, really important there. So I said moisture is key as well. And I think that's something that we neglect, because I think we're in an environment, especially if you're living in England, where you're exposed to a lot of heat. You're exposed to the heaters on. If you're like me, I like to have it hot, so my hair's getting dried out. The car, the heat is full on blast. It's windy. Do you know what I mean? We're keeping the moisture in our hair, and so our hair is naturally dry. So we need to make sure that we keep the moisture in. So it's about learning those techniques that can help to do that. I think that's so important, so that we can start to enjoy our hair, enjoy the journey, enjoy the experience.
Okay, so Gillian.
Rudy, can I mention one thing? I'm learning a lot today, so thank you, everybody, because I'm learning much more than I even bargained for coming on here. You talk about intake of nutrients and stuff. No one mentioned water. That's something I try to encourage people to intake. When I talk about going back to basics, the simplest thing that you can take that can give you great hydration internally, either on your hair and your skin, is water.
Yeah, and one of our technicals who deals with nutrition, Vasco, always talks about the watermelon, you know, the green one. Calls it structured water. It's an amazing sort of thing to think about, because again, all the nutrients are in there and all the hydration that the body needs, all the water you need is in those big green watermelons. They're a couple of quid, aren't they? 2.50 or whatever they are.
But let's have a laugh for a minute. It's how disciplined can we be as human beings to do exactly the right thing to get the right result?
But sometimes
Just
it's about
saying.
introducing things. But you can introduce those fruits and vegetables. You're right. That's where the water can lie inside there, because in essence it's been filtered by nature, and so it's alkaline into your body.
Exactly.
So if you're not a good water drinker, I mean, coconut water is excellent for hydrating. But if you're not a water drinker and you're able to have fruit, that's another way to keep yourself hydrated. And right, hydration is key. With the moisture in our hair, if you're dry, if you're dehydrated, your body's going to turn around and make that sacrifice to make your hair even more dry and brittle, and your skin more dry and brittle as well. So you know what I mean? So it is very, very important. And not only is it for your fruit and vegetables has your liquids, your water, it's also got those key minerals. Magnesium, you know, that's my passion. Your magnesium is rich, is watermelons. Your leafy greens are rich in that as well, and they're natural anti-inflammatories. So the inflammation illnesses like the lupus, like the arthritis, they all benefit by having those mineral-rich foods and mineral-rich products like magnesium.
Yeah, excellent.
Oh, Sophia, I need to come see you. Sort me out.
Find me online. I can't hide. More Genius, find me online.
But Gillian, your hair within the framework of the family, so it's all there for you. You know, we talk about water, but that's part of our philosophy. Hydration, moisture, nutrient. It's part of the Share Moist philosophy. And I'm so glad this was mentioned, because in the past, when we were socialized to straighten our hair, the hair suffered. It didn't grow as fast. It didn't grow as well. It wasn't luster. And what's so sad in that idea of straightening the hair, we were told to grease our scalp, which compounds the problem, right? Greasing the scalp, because the hair has its own ecosystem. It greases the scalp, for the want of a better word. We don't say grease, we say food. We use the word feeding, right? So the scalp, the sebaceous glands, has its own ecosystem. It nourishes each individual strand. So we have this thing called no strand left behind. So in addition, what we should do, as Sophia talks about all the time, is moisturize on the outside to help the hair shaft to be protected, as while the body with the massaging and the nutritious food to help to push the hair outwards. So the straightening era was indeed and in fact a major obstacle in terms of assisting the hair to grow, because we're doing all the wrong things. The hair was dehydrated and we were told to grease the scalp. And that to me doesn't make no sense, because if you're greasing the scalp, you're blocking the hair. And that particular grease in those days were toxic. And I'm glad Sophie talked about toxicity, because we were using so much toxic toiletries back in the day, packed with parabens, packed with sulfates, and they were damaging our hair as a result. But now, thank God, we've collapsed the trust and reclaim our trust. We are now moisturizing, we are now hydrating, and we're adding nutrient by using the intelligent nutrients.
Right. In fact, a comment just before I come to you, Bev. A comment coming about putting water on the hair to moisturize it, but then it makes it become difficult to manage.
We don't use water. Our philosophy is, I just said, Share Moist focuses on three fundamental things: moisture, hydration, nutrient. Now, we know that clients tend to wet their hair, kind of a pre-wet before they do anything else. And men do that. And kids do that. Young men, teenagers do that. They wet their hair. So what we say in the Share Moist 9 range, we've got a nutrient. This is made from boabab. 7 times more vitamins in this than any other food or plant or vegetable. Okay, so what we do with this, we drizzle this on the hair first to ensure, well, of course, I've got the head on my head because of gene. This is intergenerational, but guess what? Thank God I've got my beard. So I drizzle this on my beard every single day of the week. It's just, and this is a food. This is water-based, it's a nutrient, so that's what you use. Try to use the Share Moist 9 Mystic Healing Mist. It's made from boabab, and there's tons of nutrients in there.
Yeah, and any men, you can get K77 beard and scalp oil as well, just to let them know.
That's right. K77 men and scalp. That's right, beard and scalp oil. And for the locks, we got something entirely, which is interesting.
Yeah, we've got the locks 3-in-1 oil.
We've got the locks 3-in-1 oil. Again, nutrient, moisturization, and hydration.
Yeah. I think the aspect of water, if you just put water on and then you leave in it, the water will dry out and your eyes used to get dry and brittle. And I think you've got to remember that when you wet your hair, it kind of loosens the hair. And then as it dries, it starts curling. And as that's making that curl, that's where you're getting your knots from. So you need to make sure that it's drying slowly by you oiling it, so that it's been hydrated and you've sealed that moisture in. So you use, I know you've got the Shea Moist milk, which is like the water, but it's also nutritional water in essence. And so that's getting nutrition in your hair, and then you can get a heavier oil to just seal in that moisture, and that will help. I mean, I use water to help to detangle, because anytime you're touching into your hair, you should have either oil or have some kind of lubricant inside there. Otherwise, you're breaking your hair, you're causing damage. And I think something which is really, really important, the psychology of it, is the aspect of that sometimes when we're trying to look for different styles, or we're trying to have a natural style on the hair, we're fighting our hair. So we want to have a looser curl than what our natural curl pattern is. And then we're doing different things to our hair in order to achieve that looser curl. And that looser curl is causing damage, when really what we really need to do is to embrace our current curl pattern and make our hair as healthy as possible in its natural state for whatever your curl pattern is. And what you'll find is your hair, when it's wet, if you have a good look at that, that's the most closest you're going to get to your natural curl pattern. If your hair is highly moisturized and you're and taken care of in that way, then you'll achieve that level of curl, that level of softness. Do you know what I mean? But we walk around, a lot of times, with dry hair. Do you know what I mean? And hiding from water all the time.
Very good point, Sophia. And I'm glad you mentioned the milk and the hydrator. So we have the hydrator, which is very, very important, because water, as you know, especially in London, the water in London is recycled 8 times. Perhaps up north and the Midlands, the water is a tad softer, but your water in London is recycled 8 times before it finally leaves your premises. And bear in mind, there's lots of pesticides, lots of pathogens, lots of really toxic stuff in that water, as we know, which makes the water, therefore, very hard. So you need to hydrate using the milk or the hydrator to seal in that moisture in the hair, to lock the moisture in the hair, to help the hair to maintain that consistency. As I said, I use my beard oil every day. The first thing I do when I wake in the morning is to moisture my beard, and my Afro comb just flies through my beard without no problem at all.
Derek, what I like about your products is that it targets hair, period. Absolutely. Now, Sophia mentioned something about people having, once you put water on the hair loosens, and then you want to get the hair to be a looser curl pattern than your hair actually is. And Bev, is it Bev that mentioned about her kids had good quality hair? Now, this is something that's trapped in people's mind about good quality hair. All hair is good quality, as long as you maintain it nicely, to me. And that's my part of my education to my clients. If you come with loose waves, you come with kinky hair, you come with the tightest curl, all hair is good hair. And that's where we need to start to let everybody know that you can't have what the lady in the next chair is having, or somebody else. You just have to love your hair. All hair is good hair.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes,
it's about being unique. So much about being unique, and I think that's really, really, really important. And I think sometimes when people are fighting with their natural hair, it's because they're fighting to try and have the hair to be a different texture than what it actually is. Do you know what I mean? And that fight, I remember meeting a lady, and she was saying she can't do natural hair because it takes too long. And I'm thinking, well, natural hair is the quickest hair to do because that's how it grows out your head. You can't get any quicker than that. And then what I found out is that she was having to twist it and braid it. She was doing all things to try and change the kink, the curl texture. And that's why it was taking lots of time and causing lots of stress. When we stop fighting our hair loves it. We stop putting the gel in to get rid of the fizz. Our hair loves that. Stop all that because it's putting alcohol on the hair. When you accept your own, accept the hair can get frizzy and curly and kinky. You can do all those things in all different ways, all at the same time. When you accept that, life becomes so much easier and your hair loves it and grows.
Yeah.
We have a strap line that goes like this: women, renewal, empowerment. I'll add education to that in the end. And I think just to add to Gillian's points about the all hair being good, it's important that everyone to embrace that philosophy. Is very, very much, it's too easy to have the self-hating. And I mean, we know where that came from. We know why that was perpetuated.
My purpose in using that expression was simply because I found that the children, there was no need for them to put relaxers in. Yeah. Whereas some people do feel the need to put the relaxers in. That was the reason why I used that expression.
But Bev, you are right. No apologies. You're right, because you're saying that you're saying that the hair was good quality hair before we damage our hair. So that was a point, and there's no apologies there. We understand what you're trying to say because you're perfectly right. How many parents say to the children, the child have good hair?
Exactly.
and then the child goes and color and perm. My daughter has gorgeous hair. Right? She's asking me she's saying, Dad, I want to bleach my hair. I mean, what the hell for? Why do you want to bleach your hair? So, Bev, that's fine. We understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. I think we're creative as well.
Bev, my apologies if I was misunderstood. Yeah. I was just mentioning that so viewers can understand, but not taking any.
No, it's symbolic of what we're discussing. And this is Delore.
Yes.
Oh, Delore said good night.
Good night.
Say good night to everyone. Okay. Right.
Angela, we haven't heard from you for a while. Is there anything you want to add into this dialogue?
Absolutely. Again,
she's got the same hairstyle as my sister. She did the same thing. She just she's been doing that for years. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, just to reiterate, it's about having the understanding of every hair type, every hair texture, and knowing by educating that and bringing that forward, then that makes it a lot more easier. I think because people do not have the information or it's gotten lost, there is the reluctance to move with the natural hair pattern, the hair growth, the hair texture. And so therefore, because it's gotten lost, I think this is where, again, as we said before about educating. So every hair type, every hair texture is important and every hair is of value. Yeah. And so once we get that across and people then have the understanding of what is available, rather than them becoming their own self-analysis, they seek the help of the professional. Because you see a lot of people, what I've found, has a lot of products in their homes and each week they change because the hair is not doing what they originally thought it would do. And again, because of lack of understanding. But, you know, in light of the renewal, it's really going forwards and allowing people to have that information. And again, with Derek's product line, once people understand what their hair texture is and their hair type is, they're more able to make an informed decision with regards to what their hair can do.
Yeah, that's so true.
So know, moving forwards, I totally support what I want to say, and it's a new wave.
Renewal, remember.
Thank you.
A question for Derek. Do you advise your clients on the product that they would use in their hair? Of course, we have discussed about different, you know, different strength, different thickness, different. Yeah. Do you have advice for that for them to say, well, this is what you would use?
Go to the website. We have a different or bespoke kits for different hair types and different clients. We have a lock kit. We have a children kit. We have braiding kit. We have the rejuvenation kit. We have the maintenance kit. So in other words, there are people who doesn't need more than just maintenance. And there are those who may need rejuvenation. So we have this thing called repair, restore, rejuvenate, and regrow. And that may apply to the client whose hair has really been damaged, has suffered trauma. All right, we know what the trauma is, the braids and perhaps the weaves and the tractions. And we know there's still a little life there. Sometimes if you may put your hands on your hairline, there's some life there. Angela, can you probably expand on that? If the client hair has been damaged for over time with perhaps traction, if you were to put the hands in, there's some activity there, and we know we could rejuvenate that hair.
Yes. What I've experienced over the years is that a lot of my clients, because of incorrect hair methods, i.e. too tighter braids or weaves or incorrectly applying hair extensions, you find that sometimes they do have traction alopecia, different areas. Sometimes it could be also due to hormonal issues. So in that respect, yes, I find that a lot of our Black folks tend to suffer a lot or experience a lot of hair loss in different areas, especially around the hairline. The hairline is the most fragile, the most delicate, but yet the most abused part of the hair, of the head. And so I think once we have an understanding also of how to treat that, it would be ideal.
Right, so back to Beverly's point. So we do have a wide range. Of course, there's 11 pieces of items in the products in our range, and there's a product for each hair woe and quandary. Whatever the problem is, we cater for that problem. Hence the reason why we have the moisturizers, the mask, the Mystic Healing Mist, which is ideal for hair that's damaged, especially the hairline, the hair that's dry, and so on. The moisturizers for regular day-to-day maintenance. The Jamaican Sheen Oil for dry, lackluster hair. Yes, Bev, there's a product for every hair type and every hair problem.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that. Yes, I'll introduce your product to the children, you know, but you know what it's like when they're grown. Adults, they do take their time to do things, but I do know that that's something they would, especially the girls, yeah?
Oh, lovely.
I mean, the good thing with that, Bev, is that the hair care and barbering skills clubs are open for all young people anyway. Even though we've connected particularly with Croydon Educational Supplementary Projects, yes, and the King Solomon School in Birmingham. But what we said, yeah, they're the host organisations, but the access is for all young people because that's what we want to encourage. And parents can come onto those sessions as well if they want to, but it's focused on encouraging the young people to, you know, it's about self and cultural esteem, an integral part of those. Rudy,
if I could add to what Rudy just said, back in the day, and I'm sure Sophia, Angela, much more experienced stylists than Gillian, there were people, the salons, I've owned many salons, and back in the day, some parent would ask you, Mr. Clement, can you train my child? Or can the child come to the salon on Saturdays or on a weekend to look and learn? So the skills club is pretty much like that. It's creating a venue. Of course, now it's online for everyone. So definitely it's much needed in the community. Absolutely.
Okay, well, that in that area, yes, for the young people, because I'm a member of the Pollardsdale Youth Club as the senior members there, and they've got a vast amount of boys and girls. Haven't permit after COVID, and we're all be able to get back into the community center. Like last year, we had what you call a fun day, and we had different people from different area, all Afro-Caribbean teach coming with heart. Same type as trying to get them to be interested in hairdressing and barbering, cooking, baking, all that type of thing. So for the boys especially, I think that probably is something that they would be inclined to want to lean towards learning, because in this present time that we're in, it's very difficult for the young people. All the centers are closed, and this center is monitored and managed by Merton Council. Yeah. So, but I do know people who runs the community center. So when that is on board, if it's a situation where they can be part of this demonstration and this input they could have in learning, yes, I think that's something they would be interested
Absolutely,
in.
Bev, because one of the things in terms of young people, they're creative, and you will always get those who've got that natural gift. So like Derek said, the skills clubs are based on look, learn, and acquire. So it's about their creativity. And of course, it's a lifelong skill as well.
Yeah.
We talk about the lifelong 21st century skills: collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, hospitality, interpersonal skills. All of these skills are gained from providing services. And of course, hair care and barbering and beauty is the cornerstone of a socio-cultural and economic well-being of our community. And that's another important aspect. And in this era, it's something that we can think much more about and more seriously, because if we don't provide opportunities and learning opportunities and experience for our young people, who do we expect to provide that? You know, and so it's closely linked now in a way that in our previous generation, we had lots of hairdressing schools, and the barbers regularly took on young people as they didn't call them apprentices. They just watched and learned, and then given the opportunity. So it's getting back. So the renewal is about how do we deliver learning to the next generations coming up, to the young people, to what are now our grandchildren's age. You know.
And also we've got the Afro Saturday School in Tulsa. The kids' age range from 5 to 16 there, where it's all different type of subject, but they concentrate on education, leading the older ones, supporting them into gaining education enough for them to sit their O-level exam. And they're mainly from the ethnic community. Yeah, because that's something maybe they could be a part of too.
No, absolutely. Cultural communication, especially from a generational perspective, is more important now than it ever was. No.
But
and that sense of belonging, is essential now.
Really, when we say 21st century hair and beauty skills, it's online, Bev, and it's interesting because 21st century we're starting from scratch. It's 21, isn't it? We're starting from scratch. So we're just simply replicating what happened in the past in the 20th century. Nothing has changed. Of course, the difference is it's going to be online this time for the young ones. And this is it. This is exactly where we need to take our young people, provide the training online for the young people to bring them on board, if you like. Nothing has changed. It's the same concept. You have to learn about your hair. You have to also understand yourself as a human being, as a Black person, in terms of your culture. Your hair is your highest elevation. So it is the one thing that, if you like, empowers you gives you that sense of well-being, your hair, isn't it? So we're just simply repeating what we learned in the past and bringing that forward into the 21st century. But the difference is this time it'll be online.
Derek, that well may be the case, but we must not forget that some of these children and these young people, it's not that they don't want to, but they haven't got that sort of support behind them to say this is what you need to do, because even the parents need that teaching and that learning skills themselves. So how are we going to bring that to them? We cannot always say we're going to bring it to them through technology, even though that's what we're left with in today's day, but we've actually got to take it practically to them.
It's true, but I think
to get into their head, and it's for it to be
true.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that we have to use the available tools. So the reality is a vast amount of learning that's delivered, particularly in this particular time, is online. So we have to make use of that. However, obviously there will be a point where people can start to go out and you can start to congregate. So that will be that resource will be used as well. But I think the most important point we're really saying at this time, there's a tremendous amount of learning and development, economic development being delivered through the use of technology, and we can't be left out of that, because otherwise what will happen is that others will provide services to us that we should be providing ourselves, and then we'll start complaining when there are no economic opportunities and our community doesn't have the skills to provide those services for themselves. So you then just become a market for other people to say, well, okay, because there's always going to be a market demand. There's a market demand for knowledge, skills, and buying things online. There's a demand for that. So we have to get in there as providers, particularly when it comes to hair care and beauty, because that's the cornerstone of the community.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, would it be possible, if we're allowed to in this time, would it be possible, say, if I arranged for a presentation for these young people to be done at the center, because there's quite a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because we did Croydon in September. We went up to the King Solomon School in Birmingham in September, so we were there, with the young people, speaking to them. So yeah, so all we've done is make sure that we can transition to the use of technology. Even these consultations, all our consultations, it's only post-COVID that we even thought of really doing consultations online. We never really used to do consultations online. They would be done at the salon in Ealing or whoever else would be working with. But the thing is, we've had to transition and deliver these kind of knowledge sharing online, because that's where the market is. That's where people are online. But we'll see what happens if we're let out next spring.
We'll be there. We'll be there.
Yeah. So, anything else to add before we close for the evening? Any other key points?
Sophia, yes. Your products were introduced to me. This is for Sophia.
Yes.
Your products was introduced to me by Derek and by Rudy. Sorry, Derek, it wasn't you, Rudy.
That's fine.
I'm looking for the commission, not Derek.
And I've had a good look at your products and stuff like that. I just really need to. It's quite attractive what I'm seeing on the internet. Your presentation, your bottling, your everything. But I would need to speak to you about that.
Go on, Sophia. We're going to give you all the
for my use. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I have a range of products. I said that my philosophy, the philosophy of Morgan Genius, is about offering health products that not only beautify, but also they're going to be good for you, enhancing your well-being. So our main core products are magnesium-based products, where we do bath salts, we do oils, we do lotions, we do body butters, and they're all designed to boost your magnesium levels. Now, magnesium is a mineral that's necessary and vital for health. And if you have any kind of stress in your life, be it your lifestyle, the foods that you're eating, your environment, whatever the stress is, your body loses magnesium as it tries to relax you. And so what we're doing is replace that. Magnesium deficient are things like eye twitching, muscle cramps, high blood pressure, joint pains, eczema, any kind of inflammation, anything high in the body, it brings it down naturally. So it helps to rebalance, it helps to alkaline and bring out the toxins out of the body as well. So it helps to detox you, relax you, and to help your body to get back into sync. And so that's our main core thing. We also have a very small lane, not like Moist 9, but we have a very small range of hair products where we've got the African black soap, which we use for your cleansing of skin and on your hair. And also we've got organic natural hair oil with coconut oil, shea butter, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, lemon oil. These are just like amazing minerals, amazing nutrition for your hair, nourishment for your hair and for your skin. And then we also have another mineral, which is called shungite, which is good to cleanse your environment. So that's what we're about. We're about providing a cleansing environment inside and out.
So it's quite safe then for someone that suffers of lupus, eczema, kidney failure. Would it, those products are they safe for them, because you absorb through your pores?
It's chronic.
So yes,
exactly.
Yes.
The only time you would be careful about having magnesium. I mean, magnesium, your body takes exactly what it needs, and it's excellent for eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis. It's excellent for any kind of inflammation in the skin, because that's the inflammation. So it's good for that. The only time you need to be cautious is if you have chronic kidney failure. You need to be cautious then, because you might not be able to metabolize very well with the magnesium. The only other time that you be cautious is if you had very low blood pressure, because it helps to relax you and it helps to bring blood pressure down. If your blood pressure is very low, then you're not going to want that. So the only time you need to be cautious is chronic kidney failure and low blood pressure. Outside of that, it's equivalent of you going swimming for an hour in the ocean every day. That is what it's actually doing to your body when you're placing that on your skin. Do you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. So they're the only country in checks.
Yeah, and I don't think you've got any ocean in South London there.
That's what we need.
Sorry.
That's what we're missing. Do you know what I mean? We're living out of sync with nature. And, just to go back on what we said before, I think it's just something really important about our positive image and about ourselves. And I think when we fight ourselves, we're in conflict. I'm going to give you. I used to gel my hair down. I used to put quite a lot of it was mineral oil and gel, and I used to put it in and slick my hair down and slick and brush and slick and put it in a ponytail that was tight. And then by the end of the day, I had a headache, and I was fighting the fuzz of my hair. I'm fighting it, and it was caused a lot of emotional stress. And I'm there brushing, and then I've got this headache. When I took it out, it was like relief. And then you got to realize a lot of time when we're losing our edges is because we're having a fight with the elastic in our hair, and the elastic is winning a lot of the time, and we're actually plucking our hair out. Because remember, it might be straight when you're gelling it down, but as the day goes by, the curls are trying to come back, and it's this fight between the elastic and your scalp is losing. Do you know? And so what happens is that your edges move to behind your ear. Do you know what I mean? Because every time you're scraping it back. So because we're fighting ourselves, and when we start to love ourselves, so you know what? My hair wants to curl and kink. That's what it wants to do. When we embrace ourselves, the fight is over, the stress is over, and we can enjoy the journey. Do you know what I mean? So it's also what we've got to do. It's about knowing yourself and loving self.
Yeah, and that's getting
And for Derek, the same question that I've just asked Sophie. With your products, is there any chemicals in that I'm not saying chemical in your product that would affect someone with those illnesses or
the chronic conditions?
Yes.
No, not really. Again, as I said, it's for instance, for the scalp, we have the scalp hair and scalp food, antibacterial, shea butter. All those are indigenous to you. They're natural. They're going to provide for you what your hair needs. Nutrient, most of all, hydration, secondly, and moisturization. That's all you need. There's nothing in it that's going to be harmful or if you like, in conflict with your hair and your health. Okay, so we made sure that everything that we do is literally consistent to your health to ensure that it boosts, if you like, it encourages regrowth, it repairs the hair, it restores vitality, and it rejuvenates the hair. And of course, we ensure from day one that we're not going to use anything that's not going to be unethical. It's crucial that this is ethical and it's for your hair well-being.
All right, thanks for
Okay,
that,
thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll speak to you on a one-to-one, Rudy, why I asked those questions.
Right.
You probably, yes, not now.
Yeah, no problem. This is one for you, Angela. The question has been asked as it relates to a protective style when somebody's moving from weave to natural. Is there any particular protective style? And maybe if you explain the process in terms of what women are normally having to go through when they make that decision, what they maybe in terms of maintenance advice as well, I think that might be helpful.
Okay, so a lot of women may not be able to transition to natural hair straight away. So in terms of the health of the hair, I deal with the health of the hair first before I apply any protective styling. And there's always a thorough consultation, scalp checking, diet, any contraindications why a possible protective style would not be advised. And then in terms of doing that, if we agree on a protective style, again, it's always the health of the hair, always the health of the hair. A lot of people, again, will do some protective styles that may be too tight. I don't recommend doing tight braids. The duration of doing any braids for a long period of time. I find with our community, sometimes when they say protective, they keep the braids in for over 6 weeks, over 8 weeks, 3 months.
So could you define, can you define a protective style for those?
So a protective style would be, it could be classified as having braids putting the hair, having the hair braid. It could be natural hair braiding, or it could be extension hair that's used for braiding. Again, the type of hair that would be used should be in conjunction with your hair type or hair texture. And also when applying braids, preparing the braids, ensuring that the braids are not going to take away the natural moisture from your own hair. Because part of what happens is if your hair is already dry or breaking, when you're adding an additional extension, whether that be a weave, a braid, a wig, that's going to draw away the nutrients and the moisture from your own natural hair. So it's important that protecting the hair does not cause damage, okay? And that's also about hydration, ensuring that before you apply any protective braid, whether it's a braiding or a weave or a wig, that your hair is moisturized, it's steamed, you've put all the nutrients in that hair, it's hydrated, and it should never be for a long duration of time that's going to cause additional damage or hair loss to yourself or the client.
Right, so in essence then, moving from weave to natural then, is there a general period of time where maybe somebody's been wearing a weave for a long time? Is there any particular?
I believe that I can only speak for myself and what the practices I do, that in terms of my clients, if they do have a protective style, I always advise them to come back in between to have a treatment, whether it's a braid, whether it's a weave, or whether it's a wig. Come back and have a treatment to ensure that when you remove that protective styling, that your hair is not damaged and that it's not so difficult to transition from that protective styling into a natural style. So in terms of that, no, it's not difficult. It can be quite straightforward, providing as well that the hair is not damaged and you are following up with the requirements of good hair care.
Great. So Derek, is there anything that you want to in closing? Thanks for our technical team members and Bev and a couple of the other people who sent in questions on the chat room. So Derek, so final word to you.
Right. Just to continue Angela's little preamble about protective hairstyling, and of course, thank you guys for coming on, Beverly, Sophia, Gillian, and the others who are sitting in the chat room. Put my glass on for that. Verona, and of course, Tabs. Now, I'm gonna just play devil's advocate here. As a hairdresser for over 40-something years, I never liked the term protective styling. It somehow bothers me somewhat. And perhaps it's because I'm from the generation where it wasn't fashionable to say protective styling. And so my understanding of protective styling was perhaps it's a cop-out for people to then somewhat justify the reason why they are protecting their own God-given hair. Why do you want to protect? And this is again for argument's sake. I'm just to play devil's advocate. Why do you want to protect? You protect your hair by either moisturizing it, by hydrating it, and by feeding it, right? You protect your hair by ensuring that its well-being is catered for, styling, and so on and so forth. Now, to counter that problem, we at Share Moist 9, myself and Rudy Page, we created what we call the 9 principles of Afrohair, which conveniently spells black. So it begins with braid, it begins with bald, braid, lock, afro, weave, curl or coils, kinks, and then straight, which therefore means that Afrohair can morph into these 9 principles because of the 9th power of 9. Now, the weave aspect is, I have no beef with weaves at all, because we created the weaves for our cultural esteem, for our self-esteem, for our glorification. We created that. We wasn't copying anyone when we made the weave over 3,000 years ago. So I have no beef with weave. And so the reason why we have the 9 principles, you or the Black sisters out there are able to style the hair into this 9 different principles. So then why do you want to cover it up and protect it? The weave is an accessory as far as I'm concerned. A wig is an accessory as far as I'm concerned. And I think every woman should have a weave or a wig accessible to them for whatever the case may be. But when it becomes the other hair, when it becomes your hair, it's a problem, because as we've seen, it's now a necessary evil, because when it's removed after several months or weeks of protecting your own hair, the hair is like, oh my God, the hair is gone.
Freedom.
It's dry.
Yeah,
it's,
and the
it's
scalp.
broken.
And the scalp.
It's lacking lackluster. Well, not to mention the debris after several months of, and so therefore some people take it to the extreme. So I do have a beef, but anyway, that's the case. It was a very fashionable term back in the day to say that we are protecting our hair, but thank God we see the natural movement. As Sophia always keeps saying, love your hair. If it's that short, it's your hair. If it's long, it's your hair. And I've seen people with very long hair and they're very unhappy with it because it's lackluster. It's just long and dry. It's not doing anything. And there are folks with extremely short hair who have a great time with their hair. There's wonderful shapes, wonderful styles to embellish it. So that's my final take on the situation. I'm loving our constant conversation and dialogue about protecting the Afro realm. We must protect it at all costs, because there are others out there trying to steal it from us. And we're going to make sure that we protect it at all costs, our legacy, our hair story, and our heritage.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And see you all. We'll be back this time next week, 6 p.m.
Rudy, a few people has messaged me. They couldn't open what I forwarded to them. So I've suggested they go on YouTube. It will be on there, yeah?
Yeah.
Live.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Good night, guys. Sophia, good night. Angela, good night. Evelyn, good night. Gillian,
Good night. Nice meeting you all.
Everyone.
Yes, I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Learned a lot about hair.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course,
Thank you.
Sophia, keep knocking that, keep knocking that philosophy. And of course, I think Angela's working on her product line.
Yes, I am.
Good. We look forward to
2021, it will all be revealed.
Have we lost Gillian then? Where is she?
you've got a platform.
Gillian, where is she?
Sorry, guys, there was a bit of traffic in my room. I'm here. I've been in and out.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
You
all.
missed me, did you?
Yes, I did. I couldn't see you.
I had to nip in and out.
Okay.
Too much traffic in
Right.
this living
Thanks.
room.
Before I go, 30-something years ago, I went to Grenada to open a salon, and there was this gorgeous young woman, very attentive.
Me?
Very attentive, wonderful aptitude, the young, gorgeous Gillian.
There you go.
I started with Derek, learned so much. And I came in just at the end when you were talking about preventative styling, when Angela was talking about it, or protective styling.
Yeah.
And because I was trained by Derek, I think quite like him. And I never use the term protective styling. To me, it's one out there that I never play with. I call it more preventive styling.
Yeah.
When people
And
say,
in fact,
should I have a protective style? I call it preventive.
yeah.
I don't know what they're protecting. They're preventing. They're preventing the good for their hair, really.
Yeah, yeah.
But the adjustment and trying is great, but I never use the terminology protective style.
We're going to definitely revisit that definition, because we can define and redefine words and what they actually mean, because a lot of time there's words, but then there's what's done in practice. So I think, Derek, maybe let's talk about that next week, and we'll look at some of the other terms that we use and whether those terms is actually what people do, because a lot of time words are used, but we actually do the opposite. So we can look at that next week, and that protective styling.
And
that would be great.
Right,
because Rudy, so sorry, Derek, hang on a second. Rudy, the terminology we use gets trapped in our brain, and people say protective, they feel that they're in that safety net.
Yes.
And then that's where the damage comes in, because they think, well, I have braids in, so my hair is fine.
Yeah.
But how you sleep on it, how long, like Angela mentioned, how long you keep it in is another thing. So the word protective styling needs to be tweaked. I think we need to come up with another term for that, so that people don't feel like they're in that safety net where the hair is protected. That's where a lot of damage happens.
I agree. I've seen a lot of people that have thought they've had a protective style, but in fact they've caused a lot of damage to their hair. I think
there we go.
Different levels. That's one. You talked briefly about that aspect of that false growth. They think, oh, then my hair grows when I have my hair extensions, but when they take the extensions, the hair starts breaking back because it's been damaged underneath there. You know what I mean? They put the hair too tight, which is causing damage. And also, I think, which is really key, is that now they've hair, but they haven't learned how to take care of their hair. Do you know what I mean? Because it's been on there, so they've not got used to their texture and what works with their hair. They haven't learned anything. So when they took the extensions out, then it starts breaking as well.
Yeah. So that's next week's topic. Great to see you all, and time to go.
Could stay here all night.
Thank you.
Good night, and God bless. Stay safe, everyone. Bye. It's been a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.